Hi, it's Peter Chapman, and I'd like to welcome you to another version of our SKUFood Recipes for Success, which are presented by FCC. And this week we've got a unique version of our Recipes for Success because we are just waiting, I guess you could say, for a hurricane to hit in Atlantic Canada. So we wanted to pre-record our session this week so that everything is ready for you and that you're not disappointed and don't get the content that we want to deliver to you. So we pre-recorded this week, so we won't be able to do any questions during the session, but we definitely, as always, would certainly always entertain questions anytime. And if you have some you want to follow up, you can always send me an email, peter@skufood.com, or you can always give me a call at 902-489-2900. So always interested in your questions and comments about the things that we're doing. And our Recipes for Success, which are presented by FCC, were started back in March when the whole COVID-19 pandemic started to really impact our food industry. And it was really just our way at SKUFood of trying to give back. And we're all about trying to make your food business better. And our Recipes for Success are an opportunity to provide some insights for you, just like today's topic, which is about generating sales with your customers and consumers in this virtual environment. And today we're going to focus on relationships in the virtual environment. So we're going to talk about how important it is to generate those relationships, but also we're going to give you some really practical things that you can go out and start doing. And that's what we're all about here at SKUFood. And it's what we try to help producers and processors with. It's our plan today was to have the Kilted Chef Alain Bossé, joining us for our session. But given the fact that many people are trying to get some things done in advance of the storm here in Atlantic Canada, he's busy filming some programs, which actually we're going to refer to today in our session. So I'm not going to talk too much about that until we get into it, but you will see some things. And unfortunately, we couldn't bring the two of us together today to make that happen, but we'll find another time to do that. And one of the great things about our Recipes for Success is the partnership we have with FCC. And I'm sure that many of you are familiar with FCC's work in the ag sector, but the reality is that FCC support the entire value chain of the Canadian food industry. And they work with artisanal and large multinational companies right from the production stage and actually inputs right through the whole piece to packaging companies, others who support the food industry, including wholesalers and distributors. So they really do have a wide range of services and products that they can offer to make food companies more successful. So I'd really encourage you to check out some of the options and alternatives that FCC have to support your food business. And I'm sure that some of the companies that we refer to on our Recipes for Success are partners with FCC, and I know that they appreciate their deep involvement and understanding of the food industry because it is different, it's unique, and in 2020 we've had some even more unique challenges. So we really are appreciative of our partnership with FCC and our Recipes for Success. So let's talk about the different ways that you can develop virtual relationships with your customers and with consumers. And it really is, important to talk about customers and consumers and how that can lead to trust. And really, that's when the magic happens. And if I think back to my time sitting, on the retailer side of the desk, as they say, when we've had relationships with suppliers where I felt there was a mutual level of trust, that's when the magic happened. And in the past, we would have tried to develop those relationships either in the store or in a meeting when we're in the same room, but now that's not possible as much. So we're going to talk about how to develop those relationships and lead to trust differently so that you can generate sales in this new environment that we're going to be working in for some time to come, really. So one of the things that's important to think about are the priorities of your customers. And for me, a productive relationship is built on understanding the priorities of your customers. And we know that the retailers are always focused on sales. They're going to be focused on sales. Food is a volume business. You got to drive volume to reduce your cost as a percentage of your total sales. So we know they're going to be focused on sales, but how they're generating sales now is different. And also we know that food service continues to struggle and more people are shopping on the retail side. And they're trying now to convert that into a more successful business. And a big part of that is service level. And we talked earlier this month about service level and how important that is. So that's a key component of the retailer's priorities. So when you're talking to them in this virtual space, you want to include more things about service level than perhaps you did in the past. But don't forget, they're going to want to make a profit. I mean, that's what these companies are in business to do. That's why they invest millions of dollars in stores and distribution centers and everything else so that they can turn a profit. So that's still part of the conversation, and it always probably will be as long as retailers are for-profit companies. So you have to remember that they're going to want to make a certain margin on what you're selling. And it's a great opportunity for you right now to differentiate. And there are a lot of people trying to figure out, how do I change? How do I do things? And a big part of it is just how you do things within your own business to get your products produced and packaged and delivered, which is certainly an important part of what you have to do to be successful. But you can really differentiate how you generate your relationships with customers and consumers. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk about the customers first. Let's talk about the retailers, those people who issue the purchase order to you, who buy your products from you, and how you can develop some of those relationships with them in this virtual environment. And we know that so much of it is being done online. And prior to March of 2020, I probably would have had just a handful of meetings with retailers online. And since March of 2020, it's been exclusively online. So make sure you understand how to use the technology. Some of the retailers have a platform that they prefer to use. So if, say, Loblaw is your customer and they're using Microsoft Teams, then whether you like it or not, you got to figure out how to use Microsoft Teams. So learn how to use the platform that your customers are using, and then figure out how to spice it up. I mean, we've all been on lots of these Zoom meetings and people go on and go, oh, you know, another Zoom meeting and everything, but you need to figure out, if you're having a conversation with a retailer, so say the retailer is on the bottom left there and they've got a bunch of things going on at their desk, and trust me, I've been on some calls with retailers where I'm seeing a side of them I never thought I'd see before. So you're kind of in their home because most of them are working remotely, and you're going to get to see a different side of them, but you need to keep their attention. You need to keep it entertaining. And one of the things to consider when you're doing these virtual meetings is it needs to be a little bit of a production. If you just get on there and have a one-on-one or two-on-one or whatever conversation and you just drone on for 30 minutes, you're not going to keep their attention. Let's face it. You're going to lose them. They're going to go and they're going to check emails, and then they're going to be looking over here and they're going to be over here. You need to keep them entertained. You need to keep them focused. And so consider some things. And one of the advantages of this virtual environment is you can bring people in. So if you had to travel in the past to a retailer meeting, you probably wouldn't have taken somebody special to do, say, the product demo. But now, if you get them hooked up and say you're using Zoom, and you can just bring them into the meeting at 20 after the hour to do a little product demo. So if you're working with a chef or you're working with a culinary institute or whatever choice is working in your business, bring them into the Zoom call. And then you can have them do the, 5 or 10 minutes, and then they're gone. And then you get back to say the things that you want to discuss with that customer. And there are a lot of different options with video now. So think about some of the ways that you can really spice up those meetings and make it more interesting. If you've got half an hour with a retailer, then maybe 20 minutes of it is focused on you and them discussing nuts and bolts and upcoming programs or costs or whatever it is you need to have a conversation about. But then bring in 10 minutes of entertainment, and trust me, they'll remember it. They will, because you'll be different. You won't be the one who went on for 30 minutes. So consider that as something that you can do in your next online meeting. And we also know that you have access to video now. There are so many different ways that you can use video. And we know that you're probably very unlikely right now that any retailer, category manager, or person who works for the retailer is going to visit your facility. Either you don't want them there because you are trying to protect the safety of your workers, or they're not going anywhere because of their own safety. So you can, though, use video. And I just want to share an example with you of how you can do that effectively in this new environment, because there are a lot of different ways that you can do this. And it's interesting, and I think it's a great opportunity for you. And the way that I like to think of it is take your business to them. So I'm going to show you a video of a farm in Nova Scotia, and they put together this video for really, it could be for consumers, it could be for customers, but it takes the person right through the process of their onion harvest. So you can see right now they're out in the field. The onions have grown, so now they're taking the tops off them, and you could explain a little bit about that piece of equipment. You could talk a little bit about the acreage. And then what they do is, after they've taken the tops off the onions, they lift them up out of the ground. So another sort of part of the process in the harvest that you could talk about. And then they put the onions out to dry. So they naturally let them cure for as many days as they can, depending on the weather. Obviously, it's a beautiful day for a video, the day they took it. But they want some natural air to flow through those onions before they put them into their dryers. And once they get harvested, they go into the truck, which takes it over to their processing facility. So again, it gives you an opportunity to show what you're doing, showcase it. And we know that you want your customers to visit your facility, but they can't right now. So take your facility to them. And this is such a great chance. And by the way, this video was put together with drone footage that was done by one of their temporary foreign workers. So what kind of a great partnership is that as well, to have one of their workers from Mexico who's kind of interested in drones and photography did all this footage for them, and they collaborated to put it together. One of the people working there did it. This is not a multi-million-dollar production. They edited the footage, added a little bit of music you can hear in the background, and you can see the subtitles going on there at the bottom. So it's a way for them to show them, and then you could also reference in terms of quality assurance that you're doing a pre-grade on the onions as they come into the storage facility, and you can show the size of your storage facility and talk a little bit about what you do. So to me, it's a great opportunity to showcase what you're doing through video. And that is a great thing. So really take advantage of video if you can, because it really can be a super tool to take your business to them. And think about all the different possibilities that you could do with video, because there are things like talking to your employees. You could talk to lots of different things. So think about how you can use video, and just put a little 2-minute. Don't make it too long, but just make it a little bit, and you can either do it so you can talk over it like I did there, or you could do one that you want to just play and let your customers experience what you've got going on in your facility. And so testimonials, like you could do video testimonials of customers. So if these people are your target market, then it's a great thing to have them telling your customer about your products. And there's nothing more powerful than a testimonial. And it's much more effective. Don't take this the wrong way or anything, but it's much more effective than you telling them that it's a great product. Have the consumers do it. And right now, so many people, we're not getting out to the stores like we used to. I think people miss being in the stores. So by doing a little bit of video testimonials, and make sure you maintain safety and do it respecting public health guidelines, but there's things are changing, and you can talk to people and do some of those kind of things, and perhaps your product brings a new solution to them that they didn't have before the pandemic or something like that. So look for those opportunities that you can then take back to your customers. And another great opportunity for a testimonial is their store staff. And I see sometimes where people are doing this, they show employees in the store with their products, and then you take it back and show it to the office people and say, when I was in store ABC and I was talking to the grocery manager, I was talking to the deli manager, here's what they had to say about our product. Because sometimes the category managers are really not as close to the retail environment as we'd like them to be. And in today's world, they're even further removed because they're working remotely and they're not getting out like they might have had the chance to in the past. So think about those opportunities of the testimonials where you can take the consumer to your category managers or take their employees to your category managers. And then we've got all these virtual trade shows that are popping up all over the place. And now everything is being converted, and Cial was one of the last ones. It was scheduled to be in Montreal, and they converted the whole thing to an online virtual platform. So if you are attending Cial virtually, then what's your plan? Do you have, if you've invested the money in a booth, then are you ready? Have you engaged the platform that they're using? Are you ready to, get to meet a lot of different people in the chat rooms? And how does your POS and the other elements that you've created, how does it present visually? Is it built for that visual medium, or did you just take some PDFs and scan them in? Because if you did that, it might not work as effectively. And these virtual trade shows are really great opportunities, and there are differences, no doubt about it. It's not as engaging as being there in the same room with somebody, but my experience has been that in this virtual environment, the interaction you have is much more business focused. So you need to be ready, because when people do want to interact with you, chances are it's a much better or a much higher potential to be a valuable customer for you. So make sure that you're ready for those interactions and don't be vacant in your booth or those kind of things, because if people do make the effort to go and visit your booth, then you really need to be there to interact with them and develop that relationship virtually. And think about the follow-up. What will you do when you do get to engage with somebody virtually at one of these trade shows? Are you ready for follow-up? Are you ready to deal with samples? Are you ready to try to build the relationship? Because if you're just there to kind of hang out, then chances are you're not going to develop the relationship properly. And the other thing about the virtual shows is it's similar, more similar to kind of an online social media sort of interface. So people want things fast, they want it direct, they don't have time to wait around, they don't have time to sort of peruse, like walk the show like they might have done in the past. If we think of a virtual trade show, the difference is one of the things in it when we're all in the same room is people would commit 6 to 8 hours to walk a show, or days even to walk one of these, some of these big shows. And now when it's on virtual, they're sort of thinking, okay, I'm going to commit an hour, I'm going to commit a couple hours to Cial, I'm going to get in, I'm going to do what I need to do, and then I'm going to get out. And that's one of the differences that you need to respect in that environment. So look for the opportunities and then figure out how you're going to cultivate those relationships. And one of the advantages on the virtual side, and I keep saying to people, look for the advantages. It's, would we rather be in the same room? Sure, I'm sure most of us would. But one of the advantages is when somebody comes up and starts to chat with you in this environment, you can flip open your phone to LinkedIn or something and check out who they are, what their business is all about, look at their website, where you couldn't do that if you were face to face, because it would be kind of like, they'd be like, hello, I'm talking to you. You can't look at your phone. So it does give you an opportunity to kind of check things out a little bit and do a little bit of on the spot research, I guess we could say. So think through your strategy for these virtual shows, and there are some advantages. Sleep in your own house at night too, so you don't have to travel and deal with airports and some of those kind of things, which we know the excitement of that wears off pretty quick. So consider that strategy and have a strategy. It's really important that you think through that. It's not the same as a face-to-face show. And I wanted to also just talk to you about how you can take opportunities to develop relationships with your customers through some of these shows. And Food and Beverage Atlantic had a virtual trade show in the summer. And one of the things that they did was they asked myself and the Kilted Chef, Chef Alain Bossé, to put together some videos for the participating products. And this is an example to build relationships, talk about your product uses and that kind of thing. So what we did was we took a number of the products, usually 4 to 5 different vendors, and we put the products together. Chef Alain created some innovative recipes that we could put together in a brief video. We probably did these videos that might have been 10 minutes long, where we talked about the virtues of the product from the customer's perspective. And that was really more my role during the videos. And then Chef Alain talked about the product uses, and he combined them into some fantastic recipes. So it was an opportunity to showcase the products and talk about how they're valuable to customers in the marketplace. So what I wanted to do was just share a little bit of the clip of one of those videos so that you can get a sense for it. And if one of the virtual shows that you are participating in has the opportunity to create some either collaborative videos, or maybe even suggest it to the organizers and say, hey, I saw this idea where if you put a few of the products together, you can create some entertaining videos that'll keep people in the virtual show longer and really provide a different context for it. So really want to share this with you now, and then you can have a sense of what it works like and that kind of thing. So we're just going to get that set up for you and play that for you.
You have these beans to go in your Caesar, but they're not. They've got a real challenge. Kick, I challenge you, Peter. Go for it.
Oh, you're challenging me. Well, I'm only going to have one if you will.
Well, I had one already today. I think my quota for the day is in.
Are you brave enough to dip into the beans with me or not? I'm having one here.
Challenge.
I'm having one now.
I'm watching you. Oh yeah, that's a baby little taste.
Oh.
It's super hot. I mean, if you're a hothead, if you love hotness,
ooh,
be careful.
That packs some punch, doesn't it?
I inhaled at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It packs a punch.
But I think if you were having a nice Caesar, that would be a great addition to it, wouldn't it?
It would be.
That baby's got some kick.
It does.
I think my eyes are watering. So there's an example of how you can have a little fun with the video and talk about products. And that was only about a minute out of a 10-minute video. So we definitely did focus more on the products, but we had a little bit of fun with it, and you got to keep people entertained as well. And that was done with Chef Alain in his kitchen, and I was in my office. So we can do these things virtually now. We can get together, you can record the event, and then with a little bit of editing, it doesn't take much work. You can put it together and create something that's really entertaining for people and keeps them engaged at those virtual trade shows. And I think that there are a lot of opportunities in how you really put some focus on those virtual trade shows. So consider those ideas for developing relationships with your customers in this new idea, or in this new reality that we're working within. So spice up your Zoom meetings, bring some entertainment to it. Think about your strategy for the virtual shows, and then really embrace the whole video concept. And whether it's your facility, whether it's customers, whether it's consumers, there are so many different ways that you can use video. And the reality is that you can do it all on your phone. You can just do it that way, and the quality, as long as you've got a relatively new phone, you can definitely do it that way. So embrace it and find some ways to develop those relationships with your customers virtually. So now let's talk about consumers. And we know that consumers are facing a huge amount of changes, and we need to think about those relationships differently as well. So the first thing you need to do is get on the shopping list. And there are a lot of different avenues out there for you right now to get on that shopping list before the consumer goes to the store or does their online order. And one of the things which we were going to talk about with the Kilted Chef was his virtual cooking classes. And since the onset of the pandemic, Elena and Joanne have been doing a daily show. They do 5 or 6 a week, every day at 3 o'clock on Facebook Live. And it's incredible the numbers that they're generating of people watching their show at 3 o'clock. And not everybody watches it live. The thing about Facebook Live is, yes, there are people watching live and they can comment and interact and all that is great. But there are so many more people who are going back and watching those recordings. So perhaps it's at night when they get home from work and they want something to do. And in the past, people might have watched television, but that doesn't always happen in today's world. People are much more engaged with online and social media. So it's really important for you to look for those opportunities. And again, it's all about getting your product on the shopping list before they go to the store or before they do that virtual order. So if you look and see what's going on, and Chef LA is one option. There are many different people out there, other influencers who are doing similar things that you can work with your products. And the reason I put this slide up is you can see that there's 34,000 people like the page and that kind of thing. So there's big numbers that are possible to be generated. And I know that the 37,000 people following it, and also the amount of views that it gets all the time, it's phenomenal and great exposure for products. And I think when you make the choice to work with somebody, and we've talked about some of these in some of our recipes for success earlier, where you're working with influencers and finding the right people to work with. So it's important. Make sure you're going to get the product exposure that you need. So some of the photos that I just was able to capture off Facebook there, you can see a recipe that Chef Alain must have been working on with Crosby's molasses, and you can see some other ones. There's Joanne with some of the things that she does. And you can see the video up on the top left-hand corner where it shows 13,000 views. So there are a lot of people watching this, and it's great. It's phenomenal, the interaction that they're able to achieve too. And that's the power of social media, where you can see people who are interacting with them during that Facebook Live, and probably even after as well, and putting comments and saying how much they like it and that kind of thing. So really encourage you to find those opportunities online where you can do the balance between product uses or things you've got going on with your brand and that kind of thing, and find the right people, find the people that are effective that you can work with. So I would really encourage you to explore those opportunities, because it's a different world where your consumers are hanging out, and you need to find them and you need to get them thinking about your products before they go to the store. And what about your online community? That's something that we've been talking about for quite a while. I'm sure there are a lot of people going, oh, I wish I'd done it earlier. And there are lots of people who are building them now. So here are a couple examples. I get these emails because obviously I'm on their list. So Peace by Chocolate is a company that, they send out stuff on, and I guess that it's International Day of Peace, which obviously would be a great tie-in to their brand and what they do with their products. And you can see where they're promoting some of their corporate social responsibility, where they're donating the profit from the sales of some of their products this week, because it's tied into that International Day of Peace. And then Millennia Tea, another company who are putting out stuff online to their online community. And remember, they talk about, back to school and back to reality, and they've done a little pun with the word tea there, but they're giving valuable information to consumers that they can use. And they're also, acknowledging what's going on right now. And for any of you who have children, back to school this year, it's stressful this year because of all the things going on. And all of a sudden people are pushing their children into this environment where we don't know. There are a lot of uncertainties. And so they're acknowledging it, and they're talking about how their product can tie into that. And that's what you have to do with your online community. You can't just talk about your brand. And what I always try to get people to remember is, think of it as a conversation. If you and I were having a conversation right now, and all I did was talk about me, I don't think you'd be very engaged. And I think after a little bit, probably not that long, you would just turn around and say, you know what, I don't have time for that, because if I'm going to talk to you, I want to have a conversation and I want to interact. And I'm not just going to sit here and have, Peter Chapman talk about all the things that he does or can do or whatever. So think about that interaction, and what you should be focused on is how your product, how your brand benefits them. And then you can translate into e-commerce. And I think it's fair because we have to sell product. And you may want to encourage people to visit a Sobeys or a Loblaw or a local store to purchase your products, which is fair enough, because the only way we stay in business is when people do purchase things. And that's what generating sales is all about. Or you could focus on e-commerce. And we know that since the whole pandemic has unfolded, that the amount of food being bought online is 5 times probably what it was prior to March of 2020. So that means consumers are much more in that mindset. They're thinking about, I can buy food online way more than they did beforehand. So here's a company that's an example of that. So what they've done is they've created a bunch of different products that they now sell online. And they were probably doing some of it beforehand, but I'm sure that they're much busier now. And so here's an item. So you get a lobster dinner for 2 for $79.99. So they will ship you 2 cooked lobsters. They will send you mussels, and they will send you Willie Cross smoked salmon. Plus you get the bibs and you get the crackers. So they've given you a whole meal, and they're really taking the challenge out of it for you. Really all you need is a little bit of, probably some warm butter would be nice, maybe a salad to go along with it, maybe a baguette if you're into that kind of thing, and you can enjoy a fantastic lobster dinner for 2. So e-commerce, you need to generate sales. So sometimes you can either encourage people to visit your retail partners, or you can be doing some of it yourself, and it's not mutually exclusive. You can do both. You can sell in retail and have your own e-commerce site where you're generating your own sales direct to consumers. And one of the things you want to think about, though, it's not just about a product. You have to provide the whole thing. So here they give you the details of the package you're going to get, because you need to take the risk out of it for people. And although they're much more interested in shopping for food online than they used to be, the reality is you still need to do a great job of showing them what the package is and explaining it to them. So here they give you the details, and then and they give you cooking instructions if it's required. So they probably tell you how to cook the mussels, that kind of thing. And then the last thing is the opportunity for feedback. And remember, those consumers who are buying online, these are the people who are more likely to probably have been shopping on Amazon before. So they put product reviews in, they read product reviews, they want to give their input. So you have to give them that vehicle. So you can see here that Clearwater are giving you the opportunity to rate your East Coast dinner for 2. So those are all the different things that you need to do, for some of the things you need to do. There are more things on the back end, which we've talked about in some of our other recipes for success. But the e-commerce is definitely an opportunity right now for you to be generating sales. And have a look at your e-commerce site. If you haven't really spent any time on it since the whole pandemic because you've been focused on other things, that's understandable. But now's the time. Try to make it vibrant, make it address consumers' challenges in the environment in which they're living today. So e-commerce, definitely an opportunity. And then mass media. We can't forget about mass media as well. It also is still a very powerful medium. So this is an example of some collaboration. So Food and Beverage Atlantic got together with CTV, and they have a special program that they sell to Food and Beverage Atlantic members. And I believe they're on their 3rd or 4th series of these What's for Dinner segments. And these are brief segments. And again, it's actually Chef Alain, the Kilted Chef, who does the recipes and does the on-air part for the food companies with their products. So he puts together a recipe that he can create quickly in a brief segment on CTV. And then these are aired regularly, and they put them in rotation so people get fresh recipe ideas all the time. And it's very economical for vendors to suppliers to participate in it, because there's the collaboration, and Food and Beverage Atlantic works with CTV to kind of bring the food industry to CTV. So there's a lot of great collaboration, a great example of people working together to find opportunities during the pandemic. And then consumers benefit from getting exposure to great products. They get some recipe tips and ideas on how to use them. So it's a win-win for everybody. So consider all those different options to develop those relationships with consumers in this environment, because we can't lose sight of the fact that those relationships are probably more important than ever, because people are getting impacted by a lot of different communication right now than they were prior to March. So really focus on those consumer communication strategies as you really develop relationships in this virtual world. And before I wrap up with some good news stories for the week, I just wanted to recap a little bit and talk about the fact that you really need to think about those virtual relationships with customers and consumers. So with customers, we talked about the opportunity to spice up your Zoom meetings, bring some guests into it. You could bring somebody in from another country if you wanted to right now. Say one of your ingredients gets harvested on another continent. You could ask them to do some video or join you into the meeting. I mean, all those kind of things are possible. So spice up your Zoom meetings. Use video, use the power of video that you can create with your own people, whether it's your facility or your consumers in the store, or even the employees who work in the stores. All those things are very powerful. And then another component of that virtual relationship with customers is these trade shows. And think through your strategy, focus on the platforms, make sure you're prepared for it, and look for some opportunities like that quick video I showed you where your products can be showcased and get some great exposure for your products. And then when it comes to consumers, you've got to explore how to develop these relationships in virtual mediums. So it could be social media. So whether it's working with somebody who's doing Facebook Lives, who's got exposure to a huge amount of people that are in your target market. Remember, find people who are working with consumers in your target market. And there are other opportunities where you can collaborate. So I talked about using your online community, whether you collaborate with other suppliers or just focus on your own online community and communicating valuable things to the consumer, not just features of your product, but the benefits of your product and maybe some of the things you're doing, your brand. You can feature your employees, all those kind of things that you can work on with your online community. And then explore mass media as well, because they have some very powerful connections with big amounts of consumers. So lots of different ways that you can develop those relationships right now in this environment that we're working in. And by the way, it seems like we're going to be working in it for quite a while. So you need to embrace them, and you need to figure out how to take advantage of it and make it generate sales for your food business. So let's talk about some good news going on in the food industry. And one thing that I was able to find is that we see where Canadians are wasting less food. And we know that food waste is a huge issue in our industry. It's something that's a frustration for consumers. And we know it's something that people have made, even the retailers have made a commitment to reduce food waste in Canada. So Love Food, Hate Waste did a survey with 1,200 Canadian consumers. And some of the things that they found is that 24% of these consumers said that they're wasting less food. And when they asked them how they're doing that, 46% of them said that they are actually checking what they have for food in their house before they go shopping. So instead of just going to the store and filling up the cupboard again, they're looking at what they have. They're also 33% of them, and this goes back to what I talked about earlier, are making a list before they go shopping. And that's considerably more than probably prior to the pandemic. So they're making a list of what they need. 32% are planning for meals. So again, that's about getting on that list in advance. So all these things are sort of being validated, I guess, by some of the research that they found. 41% are finding creative ways to use leftovers. And part of that, I think, is because people are working at home more. So they have access to what's in their fridge for lunch. They're not downtown having to grab lunch somewhere on the go. They're home, so they're making more use of leftovers. 42% of them are thinking about how they're going to freeze food to preserve it. And then also 38% of them are considering the best way or the optimal way to store perishables. So if you're a perishable product, perhaps you should be giving people some insights into how to store your products properly. so that they extend the shelf life. Or perhaps you want to give people recipes that turn into great leftovers. So there are all kinds of opportunities for you to tie into the mindset of consumers. And if consumers are trying to focus on reducing food waste, then as a food industry partner, then you should provide some information to them which they would perceive as being valuable and make that more of a connection with your brand. And another thing that we were able to find this week is where Kettle One Vodka through Diageo are supporting the food service industry and food banks. So what's happening is that every time somebody buys a beverage that is a Kettle One vodka beverage at participating recipe restaurants, the equivalent of one meal will be donated to Canadian food banks. So Canadians who are visiting restaurants such as Montana's, the Pickle Barrel, Kelsey's, Prime Pubs, and the Landing Group locations, if you purchase a beverage that includes Kettle One, then Diageo will donate the equivalent of a meal to Canadian food banks. So you can see one of the programs that Food Banks Canada have to support or sort of promote their initiatives, where they're showcasing real Canadians who are people who are using the food banks. And the reality is that we do have considerably more people who have been depending on food banks since the onset of the pandemic. So congratulations to Diageo for their support of Food Banks Canada and helping provide meals to Canadians. And our last good news that we have this week is coming to us from Vancouver, where True Earth, which is an innovative company in the laundry detergent space. And they're really doing a lot of disrupting. They have a totally different model from the traditional liquid or powdered or pod laundry detergents. There's our sheets that go into your washing machine. And since the onset of the pandemic, where they've been trying to help people and really do some good. And they began, I guess, in March with this program where what they said was that for every consumer who buys their product through their subscription model online, they will donate an equivalent amount of wash loads to Canadians in need. And believe it or not, they've been able to donate 2,021,984 loads of laundry detergent to Canadians in need. So that's a phenomenal amount. And I know there's a lot of emphasis on food to Canadians in need, which is definitely important and something that is 100% a priority. But we do know that things, household chores like doing laundry are important too. And people want to have the confidence of clean clothes and be able to enjoy that. So congratulations to True Earth for donating over 2 million loads of laundry to Canadians in need. So I thought that was a really interesting story, and it actually prompted me to learn about that business. And it was a business I didn't know about, so it shows you the power of that corporate social responsibility initiative, where it's getting exposure for them. And obviously they're doing it for the right reasons. And when I looked at their website, they have a lot of those kind of principles within their business. So congratulations to them. But it did increase awareness as well to somebody like me. And I hadn't heard of the company before. And so it prompted me to check it out. And I learned about the business. And it sounds like a really interesting model, and something that I think would be interesting to check out further in more detail. So congratulations to all these people who are making it a better place and taking a very difficult and challenging time that we're going through right now and making it a positive for so many people. And we'd really like to invite you to join us next week for our last session in September, when we're going to be talking about online shopping. So on Wednesday, September 30th, barring any hurricanes in Atlantic Canada, we'll be back live and we'll be able to share our recipes for success presented by FCC, while we're going to talk about online shopping. And I referenced earlier that it's 5 times what it was prior to the pandemic. And what we're going to do is focus on how you as a supplier in the industry need to think about online shopping. Yes, the retailers have responded and they're doing click and collect, and Sobeys have launched Voila and all those kind of things. But what does it mean for suppliers? So we're going to talk about that next week. And then in October, we're going to talk about the numbers. And there are a lot of numbers that you need to be focused on to be successful in your food business. and we're going to share some insights into those, shed some light on things, and talk about the cost of things like discounting and some of those kind of things. So we're going to really cover a lot of those topics in our October Recipes for Success series, and we really look forward to having you join us. We appreciate how valuable your time is, so we do appreciate you being here with us. And again, if you've got any questions or comments, I always welcome them. It's Peter at SKUFood at SKUFood.com, or you can give me a call, 902-489-2900. And we look forward to seeing you next week.